Area Chamber of Commerce, I would like to welcome you to the candidate. If our third candidate shows up, please come on up and jump on the dais as I give the introductions, okay? All right, hop on up there. All right, we're pleased to give you, the voters, opportunity to get to know the men and women vying for your vote. Our number one goal is the community engagement of informed voters. We are so thankful that you have joined us. Yay, right in the middle there. The League of Women Voters is an organization that is nonpartisan and volunteer-based. It is organized at the local, state, and national level to encourage citizens to participate in government. While LWV members do study and take stands on issues, we do not endorse nor support political parties nor candidates. The LWV does encourage its members as individuals, as we encourage each of you to get involved in your community and the political party of your choice. However, the views expressed in this forum are those of the individual candidates and not those of the League of Women Voters. By sponsoring the forum, we give you the chance to get to know your candidates and get the candidates to meet the people that are voting for them. Again, all three viable candidates are invited to participate this evening, and they are here. We had a fourth. His age is not eligible for sitting in office, so we had to have him step down. So, we are now looking at the candidates for the ISD 286 School Board for Brooklyn Center. And our candidates are Cheryl Jahorek, John Solomon, and Ben Walkensummers. Gotta get it closer to my face so I can read it. Walkensummers, I'll get it eventually. Yeah, look at my name. There you go. Show me. Okay. Tonight's forum, you have the candidates will start with the opening questions that you all received in advance to prepare for tonight, in which you have 1 minute to speak. Then our candidates will have up to 30 seconds to respond to each of the questions that are coming from the audience or whatever comes off the top of my head. Finally, they'll be given 1 minute for your final statements, and the candidates, the league would like to request you refrain from making any personal attacks on your fellow candidates, except that you're all three running for 3 seats, I believe, on the school board. So you're really here to talk about how great Brooklyn Center schools are and what you're going to do for them. I'm going to point out, right in the front there, I have your timekeepers. They will show you when you have 15 seconds to finish your statements, and then they will show you that your time has expired. Finish your sentence roughly at that time, and I will direct the next speaker's turn. The order, it's 3 of you, but I do jump around a little bit. So, ushers are there handing out cards. If you have any questions you come off the top of your head, give them to us. It'd be great. Make sure we can read it, and it can be directed at all candidates. Audience, who's ever left here? No cell phones that are ringing and audible at this time. Thank you very much. All right. It will be rebroadcast on CCX. That's the one thing I need to change in my script. CCX TV, Channel 12, and on their website as well. First question that you got in advance. Please tell us about your background and previous school district involvement that support your candidacy for this position. Our first responder will be Cheryl Jahorek.
Hi, I am Cheryl Jahorek. I'd like to thank, on behalf of all of us, the League of Women Voters in the Chamber, for the opportunity tonight. I've lived in Brooklyn Center since 1982, raised 3 children, along with my husband, who have attended Brooklyn Center schools K through 12. We've been involved in the community throughout our time living here. As far as district involvement, PTA, various booster groups, youth groups, scouting. I was a math tutor at the high school for quite some time. I'm an early childhood educator by profession, recently retired, member of the Brooklyn Center Lions Club, and the Brooklyn Center Crime Prevention Program Board. Also worked in improving the quality of childcare in Minnesota through parent-aware rating. I was elected to the school board in 1991 and have served on all the committees of the board at some time or another, including Brooklyn Center's representation on various boards such as 287, Association of Metropolitan School Districts, MSBA, and the Bridge, a charter member of the Brooklyn Bridge Alliance for Youth.
Thank you. Mr. John Solomon.
Hi, I am John. I've lived here in Brooklyn Center since 1995. Here, my family moved here from California. Basically, since I moved here, basically hit the ground running and being actively involved, particularly in the school here, because I've always done that, and I think it's pretty vital. Number one, for the success of my children, and then also for the success of other children. I think that I've always had something to bring to the table. I've worked in the area since we moved here in California in '92, and as a social worker in Hennepin County, Children and Family Services. So I have a good connection to the city and working with families out here, and as well as working with the children. I've been involved in other aspects in Brooklyn Center, the Human Services Advisory Commission, and then doing some other things in and out of the schools, whether it's strategic planning or different task force, anything that's viable enough to improve on the education of our children here.
Thank you. Mr. Ben Watson-Summers.
Hello, my name's Ben Watson-Summers. I have a wife named Aubrey and a 2-year-old son named Wyatt, and another one on the way. So I'm really just trying to get involved more in the community. I've lived here for 2 years, and when the opportunity came up and I knew there was a need for it, I said, yeah. So I signed up, and here I am. My reason for running is simple. There was a need, and I felt passionate to fill that need. Hopefully I can contribute my skills to meet the district's needs as well. My main objective would be just to make sure that everyone feels heard, that that the teachers are heard, the community's heard, and the students are heard. And that's how I'm going to learn and go from there. Thanks.
Thank you. Do you feel the district is doing a good job of educating its students and preparing them for post-secondary education or for entry into the workforce? Why or why not? First responder will be Mr. Watson-Summers.
As far as how the district is doing, since I've only lived here 2 years, I'm not as familiar with this district. I think the people to ask would be the students. I think they would probably have a lot of answers to some of the questions that even we have, because they're usually very creative. They think outside the box, where we tend to, as adults, get a little more rigid. So I just feel like making sure they're heard and what their concerns are with the district, and we address those issues.
Thank you. Mr. Solomon?
Well, considering the demographics of our student population as well as the families here, and being such a transit city here, and especially in reference to location and availability, probably one of the only ones left of affordable housing, I think that we reach the needs of our children in a very appropriate and a sufficient way in getting across. We have a lot of kids that have come from different schools in different states, and I think that our schools have done an excellent job in trying to tap into their needs and help these kids academically here. You know, we're dealing with 32 different languages. We're dealing with quite a few kids that come from poverty and a lot of really traumatic situations. So it's a lot on our staff and teachers to do the best they can to reach the needs. But I know our directors of teaching and learning and the other administrators that have put together programs that have done an excellent job of reaching those needs. And I think we do a good job, and we're going to continue on it.
Thank you. Ms. Johoric?
I think we're doing a very good job in a lot of areas. Our students have a safe environment in which to learn. We have committed staff. Because of our community schools initiative, our students have access to resources that can reduce and eliminate barriers to learning. We've got a diverse environment, which is one of our, I think, a huge asset. It's reflective of the world that they're growing up with. We outperform the state grads rates since 2003 in our school district. And a lot of people don't know that, but it's a fact. Because of the taxpayers passing a referendum, we are making additions in regards to STEM so that we will be providing more training in math, science, technology, engineering, those types of things. Can we do more? Absolutely. So one of our things that we need to dig in more, test scores and achievement gap.
Thank you. What challenges do you see the district facing, and how would you address these challenges? Ms. Johoric.
So some of the challenges would be the basic education formula provided by the state. It hasn't kept up with inflation, so we're probably, if it had, would be about $600 more per pupil unit. Insufficient resources for English language learners, of which we have a number. And then, as all districts, a shortfall in money for special ed. It's a mandate by the state, and it's not we're not getting the amount we're mandated. But in spite of the challenges, we've done what we needed to do. We've risen to challenges. We've gotten out of debt. We're putting pieces in place to start what we hope can start showing improvement now. We have a strategic plan that's a living document, and every decision the district makes is aligned with that strategic plan. One of the challenges is family involvement and not dictating what that means for our different families, but defined for specific individual families. How does it provide opportunities for our parents to engage with their children, not just at school, but in their own homes? We just implemented PBIS, which is a positive behavior initiative to work on social skills, social learning. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Waxenson.
Some of the challenges I would imagine with this district at this time would be the lower income. I just know from personal experience, when you don't have the foundation at home, it's very difficult to want to be engaged and inspired in school. So ensuring that these kids at least have the ability to come to school and know that's a safe zone and a place where they feel comfortable, I think is important no matter what their background is. And so challenges like that, financial challenges are everywhere. I think we deal with that on a day-to-day basis in our own homes, let alone in our school districts. And hopefully with my background in accounting, I will be able to help in that matter.
Thank you. Mr. Solomon.
Well, one of the biggest areas is funding, and I think Mr. Hurd spoke about it, and that's just been one of our hurdles here. I think we're in a really good position is that we've gotten ourselves out of debt, and we've worked very hard to get there so that we can have opportunities for some creativity. One of the biggest issues is our academics and trying to get kids to be at the standard to where not only are they graduating, but we'd like kids to be ready for post-high school education as well. This is our next workforce out here, and we're very cognizant of the fact that we have to get these guys ready and focused on being prepared to be in the workforce. We have a lot, and I'm not saying our school system failed, but we have a lot of people coming from a lot of other places, and they, as parents, didn't get a lot of the things that would enable them to be supportive of their kids' education or know how to do that.
Okay, this one kind of goes in line with that. What responsibility does the school board have in addressing issues of race and diversity in the district? What will your role be in that, Mr. Solomon?
We have a very, very significant role in that, and it's vitally important in this day and age here with the demographics of our schools here, especially in poverty. Well, poverty has a lot attached to a lot of people of color, and that's just the way it's been in this country here. And so within that, we have a responsibility to make sure that they're accepted, they're included, and that they are getting all of the necessary resources and opportunities that every other child is getting. So what we have to do is we have to manage our money well. We have to be able to emphasize that the programming and all of the educational opportunities are aligned to where they can grasp them and be able to kind of get a better understanding of them and help our special needs children here. That's one of the strongest things that we have is special education, because we have so many kids in it, and we need to make sure that they get what they need.
Thank you. Mr. Horick.
We have done since we implemented our new strategic plan, we've done a lot of work with equity training for our staff. Part of the issue is with a shortage of teachers and teachers moving around as well, you train a group of people and then they move on. So this past year we did more with training the trainer, so training some of our teachers so they can mentor new teachers. We've hired more support staff. The kids that we're seeing need more help with social workers, school psychologists, mental health experts, and you hear that throughout the state and metro area, not just Brooklyn Center. Obviously, with the diversity that we have in our schools, this is not just big for Brooklyn Center, but everywhere, but we really have put a lot of work into that and how we can support our staff into meeting the needs of our diverse student body and supporting each other. We've hired an expert that comes in and helps our staff with that, working on cultural and linguistic things that can help our kids work within our school system. They don't all know how to do that, and they need to learn how to do that. So we've implemented a lot of things. I think this coming year is our where we really expect to see results of what we've been working on the last couple of years.
Thank you. Mr. Waxman-Summers.
Is it possible to repeat the question?
Absolutely. Don't start the timer yet. This one followed along with that other question really well, so I stuck it in there. Sorry.
Okay.
What responsibilities does the school board have in addressing the issues of racial diversity in the district?
Well, of course, it's our responsibility to address it, because that is the resource that we have available is the kids, and we need them to be able to feel like doesn't matter where they're from, that they have just as much possibility to achieve graduation. I mean, we got to get them a diploma so they can transfer on to the next level. I feel like if you don't have that, everything's going to domino effect from that point. Their likelihood of being successful in society even is going to greatly be reduced. So I think goal number one is get them to a point where they feel like they're being supported to get that diploma, regardless of where they're from or what their maybe what their disability is, or maybe a language barrier. We shouldn't have any roadblocks on trying to get them to that point.
Thank you. Do you support the district implementing the universal pre-K, for example, providing free pre-kindergarten, including full-day childcare for all 4-year-olds in the district? Why or why not? First responder is Ms. Johoric.
Absolutely, I support that. Minnesota has a World's Best Workforce initiative they started. Part of that is children entering kindergarten ready to learn, and that all children are reading by 3rd grade. Brooklyn Center implemented all-day kindergarten before the state funded it, because we believe in kids getting ready to learn in all day rather than sitting necessarily in front of the TV or whatever may be happening. But we also now provide for free 4-year-old preschool for all of our resident students. I think, as you hear in the media and even with our own government, investment in our early learners plays dividends far into the future. I believe it's a great equalizer. If all kids, no matter their socioeconomic status, zip code, whatever, where they live, have an opportunity for good quality preschool, it'll make a huge difference in their success later in their life. So yes, I do support that.
Mr. Solomon?
Well, the data shows and shows in all areas that pre-K is vital for children's success in school. We've been way ahead of the game because we started years ago with a McKnight grant that allowed us to financially be able to take care of at least 4-year-old pre-K, and it's shown by the numbers that we've gotten a lot of kids by the third grade ready to read. It's been tough there because that was our first crew, and that was a real battle of kids that had been sitting at home. And what it does is it's their first introduction into the real world. And when I say that, it's socioeconomically, they are in a classroom with other people that are not always that look like them or that have the same type of issues and behaviors, and they get to socialize and be able to learn how to fit in here. And one of the biggest things, like I say, is our goal is to have these kids reading by the third grade, because it shows down the road that if they do, they have the opportunity to be successful.
Thank you. Mr. Watson Summers.
I totally agree with this. For the reasons just that with doing the pre-K, you're for even kids that are sitting at home with very, active parents, within even the community, it doesn't matter what your background is. These parents aren't trained to train their kids. So we need them in the schools where it's a controlled environment, so these kids are getting the proper training. It doesn't matter if the parents are reading to them all, every day. That will help, of course, but this is a school environment that you're putting them in. Even if they're coming from a daycare that's set up like a school, those aren't necessarily trained educators. So I think this is a great program, and I'm very excited that Brooklyn Center has implemented this ahead of the federal funding.
Mm-hmm. Excellent. All right, we're going to move into the 30-second questions. As a board member, how do you ensure that your staff is a representation of your diverse student body? First responder will be Mr. Watson Summers.
What was the question?
How do you make sure that your staff is a representation of your diverse student body?
I think the best way to do that is to try to reach out in those areas where you can, let's hire more people that come from the same backgrounds as the kids are coming from. So A, they relate to it, and B, they offer the diversity we want. We want those new ideas from people that come from different backgrounds.
Thank you. Ms. Johoric?
It's a fact that kids learn best when they see teachers that are reflective of how they look. We can do a better job with this. It's not for lack of trying. We have our Human Resources Department goes to a number of job fairs. We post openings in publications that are read by diverse population of people, but we don't have a staff as reflective as it should be, and it is a goal that we all are committed to. We just need to keep working at it.
Mr. Solomon?
Well, it's vitally important, and I've been speaking out on that for quite a while, and I know that Cheryl and I have both been pretty vocal about pushing our human resources to recruit in what we see as our non-traditional ways of recruiting, getting out there in our communities of colors and reaching them through their own media sources, the Hmong Times, the African American newspapers, the Hispanic and Latino newspapers, and get out there and get to know some of these guys so that we can get ahead on some of these qualified teachers here of color.
Okay. Next question. Brooklyn Center High School has a strong sense of community. As a board member, how will you make an effort to be a part of that community? First responder is Mr. Solomon.
Well, I can pretty much kind of pull my collar on that because I stay in the community here, and I've always been actively involved in it, and I get to know the families and the parents around there and purposely get to know the kids and things. And one of the reasons is because I feel that we have to get to the point to where we have not only the kids interested in their school, but we got to have these parents interested in their school and not more than being home and asking, how did your day go at school? We want them to come and be a presence in the school.
Mr. Watson Summers?
It's always a challenge to get people involved with their schools. However, I do agree that is very important. And so how to tackle that challenge is you have to make the kids excited about it. They have to go home and tell their parents how inspired they are by the school, and the parents will be interested then that what are we doing different that these kids are so excited to be there.
Okay. Ms. Johorg?
We're spending, again, it's changed from the way our kids grew up, or what our involvement was, versus what we are today. So we are spending a lot of time exploring parent involvement and what that means to schools today. Finding ways for parents to be involved, whether it's not necessarily in the school day, but in their child's education at home. If they can help in any way, shape, or form. I still help sell tickets for sporting events. I volunteer for family activities at the elementary school, evening things. So it's a work in progress, I guess is how I'd say it.
Here's my follow-up. How many high school activities do you try to attend each year, you yourselves? How many high school activities, whether it's the arts or the athletics? Try to ballpark how many athletics or things you go to. Ms. Johorg?
I try to do a number of those. I try to go to at least one of each sport, of their, softball game or tennis match or basketball game. I collect tickets when asked. I go up in the building and participate, National Honor Society inductions or Pep Fests or any of those kinds of things. So I try to be involved as I can. I just retired, so I imagine that will become easier now this year than it has been in the past, working a 50, 60-hour job. But that's how you stay connected to what is going on in your schools too, and it is very important.
Mr. Solomon, same question.
I try to stay involved by volunteering in there. I pretty much make pretty much just about all the football games here, and I do go to quite a few of the basketball games, and I've actually been a middle school football coach at the high school. And I've also been involved in putting on a couple of the programs for Black History Month. But within that, I think one of the things that we've all, as school board members have done is gotten involved in volunteering here up at the school, just so that we can have a presence there.
Okay. Mr. Watson Summers, since you're brand new to the district, do you have a goal for how many you would like to try to hit within a school year?
I would like to at least see everyone to see if if there's anything that could be done differently. Maybe we could, fund it better in some way if possible. I don't know all those details at this point, but I also am a big supporter of the arts. I think that's lost a little ground in this country and the state, and I would like to see that flourish.
There we go. Excellent. Next question. I'm making sure I get all the audience ones. Yep, I am. Okay. Do you feel the district's schools are safe? Why or why not? And are there any safety improvements you would like to see implemented? First responder is Mr. Watson Summers.
I don't know if I can speak for the district itself, but from what I've seen living here 2 years, I've been very impressed by I just don't feel like it's that unsafe of a neighborhood. It might be where I'm living. I don't think it's anywhere special in the community, but it's just, so far it seems like a really good district, a really good community. I take my son walks all over. We've been to just about every park in this district, I think. So yeah, I like it so far.
Great. Mr. Solomon?
I think the schools are very safe here, particularly in our district. I think we do a really good job of trying to stay on top of things. We've had a lot of changes, and I think that's been a big part of what looks like it could be chaos, is because we've changed administration positions around in different times, and that people around are not always that familiar, used to the particular different incidents that may have happened here. But we have a lot of special needs kids, and they need a lot of attention, and sometimes that can get misinterpreted as a bad kid.
And Ms. Johoric.
I also believe our schools are safe. You see in the media all the things that are going on around. It's always a concern, but I think we've been very proactive in having safety and emergency plans in place. Thanks to our residents and a successful referendum, we are doing some remodeling to remodel the entryways of our buildings so they are safer as far as access to the building. As John said, all schools are experiencing, I think, a little up in some behavior issues, but that's having the right staff in place to have that under control. And I don't believe we have unsafe buildings at all.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I'm going to pop in a fun question. Tell us about the book you are currently reading or one you've recently read. Mr. Solomon.
Actually, I just got downloaded Fear today by Bob Woodward, so okay. I will be reading that. But I just finished April Ryan's book, so.
Okay.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Excellent. Ms. Johoric?
Well, I'm an avid reader, so I can't even tell you the last one I'm not always good about remembering titles, but I read a variety of things. I also am interested in reading the Woodward book. I like the one I just finished was written from a Native American perspective about Minnesota in the 1800s and early 1900s, which was an excellent book. But I visit our library often and read a lot.
Very good. Mr. Watson Summers.
The last book I read was Curious George.
Bedtime.
That pretty much fills up my reading right now.
And how many times each night do you have to read it?
Just once.
Okay, good. All right. I hate to get too repetitive there.
Yeah.
That's the truth.
That question always cracks me up. In what way has the district partnered with community businesses and resources? What benefit has occurred with these partnerships? First responder will be Ms. Johoric.
Okay, so as I mentioned before, we are community schools, which is a national thing. So we changed our name from Brooklyn Center School District to Brooklyn Center Community Schools. With that initiative, we have hundreds of partners that work with our schools to eliminate barriers for our kids. So whether they're city partners or emotional health, mental health, Park Nicollet is one of our big partners, so we can offer healthcare, dentist, vision screening for our kids and their families, actually, so that they're more able to learn. And then a number of people that come in and just work with our kids for after-school programming and keeping them busy and safe after school.
Thank you. Mr. Watson Summers.
Can you repeat the question again, please?
Yeah.
Just want to make sure I heard it.
Right. In what way do you know of has the district partnered with community businesses and resources, and what benefit has occurred with these partnerships? Or if you're not familiar with these, what would you like to see with community partnerships?
Well, I think it would be great if the businesses would show interest in developing their future workforce. I can't imagine they wouldn't take more interest in it already. So I would I'd like to see them really want to do something be more interested in it. I think that sums it up.
Okay. Mr. Solomon.
Well, it's been a little tough, but thank goodness we have like the Lions and other groups that really do a good job of reaching out. You know, it's tough for a lot of businesses when they don't have that connection like they used to have kids in the schools here and have a connection in some other kind of way. But we've done some real good things, especially with some of our small businesses and fast food and them getting them to hire people. I just got the word out just a little while ago. Top Golf reached out to us, and they want to hire 60 of our high schoolers. So, so that's a new business, and they're stepping up.
That's good. Good. Excellent. Last 30-second question. How would you like to see the district handle children with behavioral issues that are disruptive in the classroom? Mr. Solomon.
How would I like to see them? I think that we're doing a good job, and what we got to do is get people committed to working the program. We got people trying to program, but there's been some resistance to it, and we want to sell them on the fact that it's going to take some patience. You still have to teach, but we are trying to put the resources in the schools that can help us manage kids, because like I said, we have a lot of special needs kids. We have a lot of kids with trauma that are coming to our schools each day that need attention. And I believe that, to answer your question, we just need some patience and work the program and being able to kind of get better on it.
Okay. Mr. Watson Summers?
As far as with that, I would say we definitely do not want to be expelling students. I don't think that's headed in the right direction, because that's just taking them further away from what we're trying to get them to do. So I think we have to have some patience. It would definitely help to have staff that are educated in that, if not already, so they are better equipped to handle those situations rather than just getting, sending kids home.
Mm-hmm. And Mrs. Johorg?
We just had a board action last night that we will not be suspending children K through second grade. They can't learn if they're not in school. There's been a big topic around other school districts, and we've had some of us, including us, where suspension became kind of the norm when kids were not behaving, but it can backfire when they're not there, and you're putting your resources into educating them outside of the building and whatever needs to be. So, we need to focus more on individual needs, meet their needs, supporting parents, however that may look, instead of blaming parents, and training our staff so they can be better. Not that they're not doing a good job, but that they can continue or be better supports for our students.
There we go. Let's move into our closing question. You have 1 minute to speak. In summary, how do you intend to best serve School District 286 and move it forward? First, we'll go in the reverse order in which we started. So, Mr. Watson Summers.
The way I would intend to support the school district would be using my skills that I have developed through having an accounting background. I have a bachelor's degree in accounting. I also have a associate's degree in business administration. So I've seen a lot of financial books. I feel like with the funding issues, it always comes down to the finances and how do you distribute those in a way that benefits everyone to its highest level. And that's I think always been the challenge with every school district. Where do you invest it? What parts do you cut out and why?
Mr. Solomon?
Well, in my work, I just recently retired this year also here, and I've worked as a social worker for 33 years. So I kind of am jaded on bringing kind of a social science perspective into things and looking at families strongly. So my biggest thing is to try to bring some perspective in some of the issues that our families are dealing with here, and especially to help our staff, teachers, be able to kind of get an understanding of some of the things that are going on in these homes, and then how they can also communicate and reach out to some of these family members here. I plan on doing more in the community in being able to do teaching some parenting skills stuff. I'm actually preparing to start a couple groups in the community working with fathers, as well as doing some parenting education with the whole family. So hopefully I can build a system that will help them better be able to advocate for their kids in the schools.
Thank you. Ms. Johoric.
I'm very passionate about public education. I'm very passionate about Brooklyn Center School District. I believe our size is an asset. It allows us to make decisions and implement them more readily and more efficiently possibly than some of the bigger schools. And I sincerely believe Brooklyn Center can be a model of best practice within the state and even in the nation. I personally will continue to be prepared for every meeting, be informed on the issues that come before us, making decisions that are in the best interests of our kids and families, and thoughtfully consider alternative solutions to things. I believe in our strategic plan. I think the fact that we've aligned every decision that we've had to that strategic plan, now we need to start the accountability part. The pieces are in place, and this next year brings accountability.
Thank you. Once again, on behalf of the League of Women Voters of Brooklyn Park, Osseo, and Maple Grove, and the North Hennepin Area Chamber of Commerce, I would like to thank the candidates for agreeing to participate in tonight's forum. I would also like to thank the voters for attending and participating by submitting excellent questions, and I would like to thank the viewing audience as well. Remember that if we could not get to your question tonight, or if you have further questions for the candidates, we invite you to contact them directly with your concerns. Please remember to get out and vote for all things that are important this year by or on Tuesday, November 6th, as your vote truly counts. Thank you, and have a wonderful evening.
Thank you.